Hey guys, today we're answering a very important question. What is the best saw for a homeowner? And to get that answer, I'm here with Gene Stewart, North Texas Farm and Garden. Gene, I know you get this question all the time, so I wanted to start with what is the saw you recommend most for homeowners?
So what we're going to do, Tim, and I appreciate you being here and asking that question, we are in chainsaw season. The typical last quarter of the year, we sell an inordinate amount of chainsaws. And buying the right chainsaw is very critical. You want to buy the right chainsaw for the right application, and you want to also buy the right chainsaw for the user knowledge or information of a saw. These saws are very dangerous and could be very dangerous if not handled correctly and understand the safety aspects of the saw. But back to your question about the most consistent and reliable saw we have as far as consumer, it's the Stihl MS-250. Why is the Stihl MS-250 the most reliable consumer saw on the market? Is because it's an intermediate saw. It's a great trim saw, and what I mean by that, it's lightweight enough and the bar's short enough to where you can use it for lightweight applications for trimming, where you're just trimming limbs off of a tree, or if you have a bigger project of where you want to take down a 10 or 12-inch tree, that saw has the power to do the same thing as long as you allow the saw to cut. If you try to force cut it, you're going to run into some problems. And again, that's what I'm talking about, is about having knowledge of how to use the saw. Knowledge and the right saw matched up is a great combination. Uninformed folks that buy a saw and try to misuse the saw can lead to frustration. It could lead to a job being left incomplete, or damaging the saw, or somebody getting hurt, and we want none of that. So when somebody comes into North Texas Farm and Garden, we're going to ask the same questions, whether they're buying a lawnmower, a chainsaw, a weed trimmer. We're going to interview the situation and ask multiple questions. We're going to ask, what type of wood are you cutting? What's the application? What's your experience level? And if the case leads to it, we're going to ask more detailed questions just to make sure we match up the customer with the right saw. So this MS-250, it's an intermediate saw, and the reason I call it an intermediate saw, Tim, is because it's lightweight. It has an 18-inch bar, and as I said and already shared, you can use it for a trim saw, or you can use it for taking trees down as well.
This is the saw that I have, because I got an acre of property that I had to clear. We built our house on it, and I bought this saw, and it was for the same reason. They explained to me, they asked me what was I going to be cutting, and I explained some of it was going to be trimming. I was going to take down some smaller trees, and they said, this is a fantastic saw. So me personally, I know this saw is really effective and a great product for homeowners. So I personally, I'm a huge fan of this one,
Right.
But I know there are some other options. So let's say, Let's take out the trees. They're not going to be cutting down trees. They're fairly certain it's just going to be more trimming, lighter usage. What do you recommend?
We're going to then shift to the MS-170,
Okay.
which is this saw right here. This is the MS-170. It's a very lightweight saw, very high performance lightweight saw, directed specifically to the consumer. And why is it directed to the consumer? Number one, for versatility and price point. So it's a very affordable saw, but also performs very well for the consumer for trimming or taking smaller trees down that you might see in a yard that might be 6 to 8 inches in diameter. Again, as long as you allow the saw to cut and don't force cut. That's one of the big things that we talk about when we're selling a saw to somebody, is how to let the saw cut for itself rather than forcing it. But the MS-170, lightweight, very affordable, very economical, and even though this might be on the lower end of the spectrum as far as price point for a Stihl saw, there's not a more reliable saw out there at that price point. We sell more of these saws for somebody that's not comfortable with using a saw or never used a saw before. But let me guarantee you this: if somebody comes in and they're not familiar with the saw, we are going to go step by step about the starting process, the safety features, the do's and the don'ts, to make sure that they're going to be happy with the saw and, more importantly, be safe with it.
All right, let's say I have a bigger application. I know it's hunting season, maybe you got a deer lease or something like that. We have a third option here that's a bit larger, so what applications is this going to be good for?
Okay, we're going to grab the MS-271, better known as the Farm Boss. Why is it called the Farm Boss? ranchers, farmers, weekend warriors, folks on a deer lease, they're going to run into a magnitude or multitude of different applications. They're going to need a saw to possibly take down some large trees, also a saw that will do some trimming. The Stihl MS-271 will do both of those instead of having to buy multiple saws. So how do you achieve that? Very simple. If you're in the process of taking large trees down, it's got all the power you need. It's in the mid 55 cc range, I believe. So it'll take down a large tree with no problem. However, we've talked about having the right saw for the right application. So how do you achieve converting this saw to a trim saw? Very simple. You've got all the power you need in the engine. You simply take off the 20-inch bar and chain, and you can put a 16-inch bar and chain on this saw, and you're automatically in the trimming business. It's very dangerous, not very wise to use a 20-inch bar as a trimming tool. It's just too cumbersome, too long, and in fact, it's dangerous. You're going to trip and fall, you stumble over a 20-inch bar. 16-inch bar is perfect for the trimming side of it. So you're going to have the best of both worlds with this particular saw. You can use it for taking trees down, large trees up to 14, 16 inches in diameter, as long as you let the saw do the cutting. We've mentioned that several times. Or you can convert it and have all the power you need and use that in a trim saw application with the 16-inch bar and chain. This is our most popular saw this time of year, specifically for farmers, ranchers, and folks on a deer lease. All the power you need, high performance saw, but the convertibility to a trim saw.
Awesome. I love these are three fantastic options, and they're going to cover pretty much all the homeowners out there that are looking for a great saw specific to their situation. And again, that's the important thing, is finding the right saw for your specific situation. You might like the 271. It might sound like a fantastic option, but you might be doing smaller projects and you don't really need the horsepower. You don't need the CC, not the horsepower.
Right.
You don't need the power, and so maybe going with the smaller option is the better choice for you. So it's about pairing the right tool with the right application. But just buying the chainsaw is just the start. I know there's some things you need to pick up along the way. And this small package, incredibly important, I know, because I got this when I bought my chainsaw. But explain why, when you buy a Stihl chainsaw, you need to get this as well.
Great question. Appreciate it, Tim. And the reason for this is we always ask the question, is that you're going to need a synthetic mix, which you mix with your oil and gas. And by the way, all Stihl products take 50-to-1 oil mixture. So basically it's one of these containers to a gallon of gas. 2.6 ounces
right
to a gallon of gas. Very, very easy to administer and put in your gas tank, shake it up, and you're ready to go. But more importantly is when you buy synthetic Stihl 2-cycle mix, this saw or any of these saws come, from the consumer perspective, come with a 1-year manufacturer's warranty. When you buy a 6-pack of this synthetic mix, it doubles the warranty for another full calendar year. The other way of achieving that 1-year additional warranty is that if you buy a gallon of the Stihl premix Moto mix
right
in the 1-gallon container. So you can buy a 6-pack
right
of the oil mix, or you can buy a gallon of the Stihl Moto mix, and it will double the warranty for you.
And you need it anyway, so you're just going to get a double the warranty, and that's just good to have. Now, I know there's a couple of things that you recommend, specifically another chain and a sharpener. So explain why you would normally buy these with a brand new saw. You might not realize it.
Exactly. So one of the questions that we're going to ask when we're interviewing the customer about the application and what they're going to be using it for is we're going to ask follow-up questions at the end of the transaction. Hey, are you going to need another chain? No, I think I'll be okay. Well then, if that's the answer we get, we're going to have just a quick conversation if they have time, and we're going to explain the importance of having another chain or having a file sharpener in their toolbox. The reason you need an extra chain is inadvertently, if you're not experienced with using a saw, the minute that you put the chain accidentally into the dirt, it dulls the chain. So you will know immediately when you have a dull chain. You'll start to smoke, it'll start to burn, and you're going to become frustrated. So at a bare minimum, if you don't buy another chain, we're going to ask the question, hey, what about a file? So even if you have a dull chain, you can also take the Steel 2-in-1 file kit. That is the best tool, chain sharpener on the market from my perspective. Why? It's very easy to use. It's form fitted for the curvature of the chain. You can use it forward, reverse, get both sides, and it also takes down the rakers on the saw.
Right.
So you're doing it all at one time, depending on the direction that you're going. Very affordable, very popular.
And then I know the last thing, and this is just an absolute must, you have to have it, bar and chain oil lubricant.
Yes.
Of course.
And you'll notice that this right here is the Steel Premium Synthetic Bar and Chain Oil. We only stock the premium lines here at North Texas Farm and Garden because we want to put the best fluids in any of the machines that we sell, specifically chainsaws. Are there other types of bar and chain oil on the market? You bet. Is there anything in my mind as good as synthetic bar and chain oil? Or I'm sorry, the platinum or premium or the synthetic 2-cycle mix? No. And that's why the longevity of the saws last is because you're using good quality products in supporting the saw and focusing on the life cycle of the saw. So can we talk about life cycle of the saw just
Absolutely.
real quick?
That was actually the last thing I wanted to ask you about, is that we're talking about premium products and using the best things with them. And I know a lot of people are thinking, well, why don't I just buy a cheaper chainsaw?
Yes.
That's going to save me money. But the reality is that's not necessarily the case. And so that was going to be the next question. So please, let's talk about that.
So let's just get this down to ground level real quick. Very frustrating to go buy a saw from a big box store. And yeah, you may not use it that often. But what's frustrating is you go out and you try to start that saw up after you let it set for a year or two. And there's some maintenance that goes along with it. But more importantly is when you buy a steel chainsaw, we're talking an investment that could last you 10, 15, 20 years. It's not uncommon for people to walk into the store and say, I have an old chainsaw, it's about 20 years old. I need this part, and this part. We have those parts in stock. They replace the parts, they're off and running. So part of that is annual maintenance. So if you do the annual maintenance, trying to do annual maintenance on a big box and having parts availability can be troublesome. Mm-hmm. We as steel dealers have those parts locally. So you're making an upfront premium investment on the price point, but over the life cycle, you're going to be, instead of buying new saws to replace those,
right,
which you really can't repair those from a big box store,
right,
you're doing annual maintenance on these saws. So your return on investment is much greater than going out and throwing a saw away that you can't fix,
right,
versus having a steel dealer fix the saw and return it back to the customer on a timely basis.
Yeah, and to me, that's one of the things I love so much about steel and just everything that you guys are doing with these products, is that it is an investment up front, but in the end, you are saving homeowners a lot of time, money, frustration by just having a quality tool when they need it, and that's going to work for a long, long time. Because I mean, I've been to several steel dealers, been to a lot of steel dealers, mm-hmm, and you guys always have these tools, these steel products that are 10, 15, 20. I had a blower that was 30 years old, still running great. It was just in for regular maintenance. And that's the nature of the product that you're buying. So over the lifetime of that product, you're going to save so much money. You can save hundreds of dollars instead of having to replace a cheaper product multiple times. You just have that one product that's going to work for a very long time. Well, thank you, Gene, and hopefully that answers your questions on the right chainsaw for homeowners and some of the things you need to do when you're buying it, some of the products you need to get along with it. It's going to set you up for a very long time, and you're going to have the right tool for the job. So thank you, Gene, very much.
No problem. Appreciate it. Thank
Absolutely.
you.